So in the last class, we were discussing about the chapter 6, weather and cloud. In that, we were discussing about the types of clouds. And in this topic, we left this topic. We start the topic of types of rains. We learned only two lines, and now we will see the types of rain in today's class. Okay, we see that precipitation is basically caused by the rising of warm air. So the air rises for different reasons. The air rises for different reasons. What those reasons are, we will see those reasons. So based on those reasons, we call the rain formed differently. Because of the reasons, the rains form differently. Okay, Abdullah Ashal, can you read this one, the first one? The first
Yes, sir.
convention rain
Yes,
is
sir.
convectional.
We have learned that.
This one.
Okay, sir. Conventional rain. When the ground is heated up by the sun, warm air rises in it rises in convection currents. Hence, we call rain formed this way conventional rain. This type of rain is common during the summer in cities in Pakistan when the ground is heated up. This is especially common in
In
inland
inland.
area away from the cooling effects of the sea. In tropical countries where it is hot throughout the year, conventional rain is common in the late afternoon. Figure 6.16.
Okay. So, what did Asil read? Asil read that when the ground is heated up by the sun, as we know that when there is a sunlight, the ground, the earth will be heated up. And when the heat is coming towards the earth, and then that heat will go upward. How? In the form of water vapor. There is a heat is going upside. So the warm air rises. So warm air rises, it rises in convection. Warm air rises, it rises in convection current. Hence, we call the rain formed this way conventional rain. How this is formed? For example, if there is a heat coming on the sun, so that heat will make a water vapors, and these water vapors are going towards the sky in the form of water vapor towards with the help of warm air. So water vapors are inside the warm air. So that warm air is rising. This type of rain is commonly during the summer cities. Not in Pakistan, in every country. In every country where there is a summer, so the rain is normally done with this formation. Okay, so these are common. These convectional rains are common in the areas which are inland. What does mean by inland? The word inland means those areas which are far away from the sea, means the city area. In the city there is no sea, we know that thing. So the areas which are very very far away from the sea, so they doesn't have a cooling effect of the sea. That's why there is a convectional rain. In the tropical countries where it is hot throughout the year, in the tropical countries where there is a hot throughout the year, convectional rain is common in the late afternoon. In the late afternoon, so the tropical countries are those countries which are the hot countries. So these rains are common in those regions, in those cities, in those areas which are very much far away from the sea, and they have a hot weather. So it will give the rain, and that type of rain commonly is called as the convectional rain. It's convectional rain. Okay. So we see the first type of the rain. It's a convectional rain. Normally happens in the hot weather or the hot cities or the warm cities. Now we are moving towards the next one. The next one is the relief. The next one is the relief rain. Okay. The next one is the relief rain. We have Ayad Hani. Yes, Ayad Hani. Can you
Yes,
read this
sir.
one? The relief rain.
Okay, sir. Relief rain falls when the air is forced to rise. When it meets high hills or mountains, the air rises and cools, resulting in rain. The rain falls on the windward side of the hill. When the air moves over the hill, it is dry as the moisture has fallen as rain. The leeward side of the hill will not receive rain and remains dry. Many deserts are on the leeward side of mountains. In the United Kingdom, the prevailing winds are from the southwest, so the relief rain falls on the highland along the west coast.
Okay, so that's good. So what does Ayad read that? Ayad read Ayad read that there is a second type of rain. It's a relief rain. It falls when the air is forced to rise when it meets the high hills or mountains. As we know, the temperature on the top of the mountain is different, and the temperature at the lowland near the land is different. The air rises and cools, resulting in rain. So the warm air, when the warm air goes upside down, and when that warm air touches the cold air, so it will make a droplets. And when the capacity of the air and or the capacity of the clouds are reached, so all the water will be fall, and that is called as a rainfall. So the rain falls on the windward side of the hill. There are two sides of the hill. Okay, we know a hill or a mountain has two sides. Okay, the one is the windward, the other one is leeward. Windward is the side on which there is a wind. There is a wind, and on the other side there is no wind. Let me show you the windward side of the hill. Let me show it here. It's a windward and leeward. Let's see it on the Google. Okay, so we are seeing this on the Google. Let's see the images. If we see the images, the first picture, if you see this one, this picture is explaining you the windward and the leeward. Windward is the side which basically contains the wind. The wind is coming on this side, so the rain is on that side. If you see here, this wind direction, so this side is a windward and this side is a leeward. So the side which is wet, there is a rain, there is a moisture, is on the windward side, and the leeward side is opposite to the wind direction, because wind can't reach there. The rain can't reach there because of the wind. Because the wind is going in this way. The wind is going in this way. Wind will not going this way and this way. No, they will not going in this way. They just go straight. So the rainwater will go in the same direction. It will not come here that much, but on the windward direction there is so much water. So every hill and a mountain normally has two sides, the windward side and the leeward side. If we see another picture, if you see here another picture, let's see. I will explain you that picture also. If you see this picture, which one? This one. This is another picture for explaining the windward and the leeward. If you see in this, there are two sides. Windward, there is a wind, but it's a leeward. So winds are on this side. They will not go there. So only the rain is on the one side. The rain is on the one side. See one more. See one more picture. In this picture, they are also showing. See, the wind is going upside down. Okay, sorry, down to upward. On this side, the green side is showing that there is a water, there is a rain is going on, because the condensing water vapors are there. But on this side, there is no water. Why? Because it's a leeward side. So always remember, mountain or hill has two sides. The first one is the windward, the second one is the leeward. The windward contains the wind, and because of that wind, there is a rain on that side. So windward has more water than the leeward. Okay, we are moving back towards the book on the page 73. So the windward, the rain falls on the windward side of the hill. When the air moves over the hill, it is dry, as a moisture has fallen as rain. The leeward side of the hill will not receive rain and remains dry. Why? Because of the wind. Many deserts are on the leeward side of the mountains. So normally the desert, mostly the desert are on the leeward side of the mountain. That's why there are very less rain in the desert. In the UK, the prevailing winds are from the southwest, so the relief rain falls on the highland along the west coast. They are just giving the example of the UK, but we can consider any example of Saudi Arabia also, for any building, for any mountain, for any place that there is a leeward and windward, because windward or leeward is always there in every mountain whatsoever is the country. Okay, so in figure 6.17, if you saw, see this, warm moisture air is forced to rise when it's meet highland. So this is a warm air here. Highland is there, it's moving upward. Now there is a rise, there is a height. The rising air cools. This warm air goes upside and it become cooled down. So there is a waterfall. But on the leeward, there is very less rain or no rain. Why? Because there the warm air converts into cool air and it become the water droplet, and water droplet are coming towards the earth in the form of rain or snow. So this is the second type. The first we saw, it's a convectional rain. Convectional rain happens in the hot weather, in the hot countries, in the tropical countries. Relief rain normally happens on the mountains, because when the air is forced, how air is forced? Because the mountain, for example, the air is going on, the air is going there. There is a mountain, so now air is forced to go upward. This warm air is going upward, and when it reaches to the height, that warm air become cold air, and when the warm air become the cold air, it become the droplet, because warm air holds the water droplet in the form of water vapor. It is the same when we take a breath. Our breath is hot, but when we breathe and when we stand near to the mirror, our breath, when we take a breath near to the mirror, we will see the small droplets on the mirror. Why? Because the hot air is meeting up with the cold surface, so it becomes the droplet. In the same way, the hot or the warm air contains the water droplet. When they become cool down, they become the water droplet, and at that time on the mountain, those water droplets are the rain. So this is the second type of the rain. It's a relief rain. Now we are moving towards the page number 74. The page number 74, we are at the third type. The third type is frontal rain. It's a frontal rain. Okay, so we have Ayan. Ayan, can you read it? Frontal rain.
Yes, sir. Frontal rain. When a warm air mass meets a cold air mass,
A front is
is
formed.
formed. A front is formed. The warm
Air is forced. The
air
warm air is forced. It's not
is
written here
forced
in, but it's in the book.
rise.
Rise over the
The
cold air
warm
mass.
air is forced rise over the cold air mass. Frontal rain falls. It can occur anywhere, especially in temperate countries where the temperature of air masses can be very different. An air mass from further north, for example from the Arctic, will be much colder than an air mass from the south. Figure 6.18.
Okay, so the third type is the frontal rain. Frontal rain, when a warm air mass. Okay, as you know, mass is a thing which contains or which have some weight. Yes, air has a weight. Air has a weight. Sometimes there is so much air that we can't go forward. Like example of air pressure or the air mass is like storm, the sandstorm. Why the sandstorms are coming? Because of the wind, and wind is basically the air mass. Okay, so warm air mass meets a cold air mass. So there are weight. Warm air is there and cold air is also there. Both have the weight. So because of them, because of cold air mass and the warm air mass, there is a formation of front. So front is formed. So front is formed. When the warm air forced to rise over the cold mass. Why? Because the remember the warm air is lighter than the cold air. Okay, because cold air is heavier than warm air. So warm air is forced to rise over the cold air mass. Frontal rain falls. Frontal rain falls. So simple. If someone asks how the frontal rain happens or occurs or fall, it falls when a warm air meets the cold air. That's it. What is the difference between frontal and the previous rain? In this, it's not just a air, it's including the mass. The warm air mass meets the cold air mass, it will make a frontal rain. The definition of this one is that this one, only this. The definition of the frontal rain is that when a warm air mass meets a cold air mass, it will form a frontal rain. It occurs anywhere. It can be occurs in anywhere, mostly or especially. It can be done in those countries where the air temperature are different, where the temperature of the air is different. So, in many countries, there are temperature differences. So, those countries which have many seasons at the same time, there is a winter in any region of one country, and there is a hot weather in the same country, and there is a weather. So, variations of the weather will make this frontal rain. The variation of this weather make this a frontal rain. Now, one more thing I have for you is that one thing I want to share with the warm air rises. You asked this question in the previous rain concept. How it can rises? It because of the evaporation. But sometimes the evaporation rate is low, so at that time, the warm air is not going anywhere. It's on the ground. But the warm air is blowing from one place to another. And there is a mountain. So when there is a hill or a mountain, now it's time for a warm air to go up. Because if it is not going up, then where would it go? So it's going upside. It's going upside. And when they go upside and then at the height, the temperature changes. So the warm air is hot. And at the upside, there is a cold weather. So when they meet up, those water vapor will become the droplets. Those water vapor will become the droplet, and they will do the rain on the mountain. That type of rain is the second type which we saw before this. So frontal rain formed when the hot air mass meets up with the cold air mass. Now, let me tell you one more thing. And air, they are giving the example for this. Okay, I will check. I will check. I will check it. Okay. So frontal rain occurs when a warm air meets with the cold air. Okay. When this happens, a front formed. We know a front will form, and that front will make a rain. So the heavier cold air sinks to the ground and the warm air rises above. Because of that front, because of that front, the warm air is there and the cold air is also there. And when they mixed up, the warm air rises up. See, the warm air is there and there is a cold air. And the warm air is matching with the cold air. When they are matching up, what will happen? As the cold air is heavier and the warm air is lighter. So they are going upside. So the water vapor converting into the water droplets because of this warm towards cold, and this will do what? Warm air rises above. When the warm air rises, it cools down. The cooler air condenses and forms cloud. And these clouds will make a rain. These clouds will make a rain. That's good, Abdul Rahman Al Sali. That's good. Okay. So, warm air, how this air is formed. See, two blocks are there. As I told you, air mass, consider them as a block. For example, one block is a warm block, and the other block is a cold block. When they meet up, what will happen? A front will form. This front will make a frontal rain. This front will make a frontal rain. And because of this meetup, we know the rule. We know the rule. The rule is cold air will be stay down and warm air will go upside. So warm air rises up. When the warm air rises up, so at the temperature when they are rises up, they become cool down. And when they cool down, they become the droplet. And we know the clouds are made from the droplets. So they make the clouds, and when the capacity is full, the whole the whole cloud or the whole droplets will come back toward that area in the form of rain or snow. In that way, the frontal rain forms. So we see the the third type of the frontal rain. Okay, so we are moving towards the air pressure. As I told you, the air pressure. Okay, we will see the read this and then we will discuss that what does that mean. Yes, Mohammad Yahya, can you read the first paragraph?
Yes, sir. Air is constantly rushing in all directions, up, down, and sideways, with a force. This force that is this force
Exerted.
that is
Exerted.
exerted on the Earth's surface is air pressure. Air pressure is greatest at sea level. It decreases as we go higher up because the air becomes thinner.
Oh, that's good. So, Mohammad Yahya, read that the air is constantly running. Constantly means continuously. Continuously. Air is continuously moving in all directions, up, down, or sideways. There is a air everywhere. Okay, with a force. So there are three things. Air is continuously rushing in all directions, up, down, and sideways with a force. There is a force in the air. That's why the things are moved. If the air force is much, then the things are moving fastly. This force that is exerted on Earth's surface, exerted means apply. This force is applied on the Earth's surface is a air pressure. So when the air is moving in all the directions with a force, air has a force. For example, we put the paper outside and when we will see it after 10 minutes, you will not find the paper. Why? Because the force of the air pressure will took the paper somewhere else. Why? Because that air pressure moves, put the force on that paper and moves it. But if the weight of the thing is more than the air pressure, then the things will stay there. For example, if there is a normal wind and your car is staying or your car is there, the car will stays there. Why? Because the weight of the car is much more than the air pressure. But if or when the force of the air or the air pressure increases more than the weight of the car, they will move the car. The example of those air pressure in which the cars are moved, the buffaloes are moved, are tornadoes. Okay, normally tornadoes are have more air pressure than the car. They can move the cars, they can destroy the houses, so they have so much pressure. Okay, air pressure is greatest at sea level. The air pressure is much greater. Why? Because there is no hurdle, there is no obstruction, there is no hurdle, there is no obstruction in the sea. When you go towards the sea, you feel a sea breeze, you feel a wind with so much force. Why? Because there is no obstruction, there is no building, there is no wall, and the wind is directly coming towards to you from the sea. So the air on the sea level is higher, but at the earth, when you are going upward in the air, so the air becomes thinner, the air becomes thinner, and because of that we need oxygen at the high altitude, or at the height we need oxygen because the air become less. When the air become less, we need oxygen, separate oxygen cylinders to take a breath. Why? Because the air become thinner on the K2 or on the Mount Everest. This is the same case. All the mountaineers, those who are going on the mountains, normally on the K2 or on the Mount Everest, they took their oxygen cylinders with them. Why? Because at the height there is very less oxygen because of the less air pressure. So air pressure. Now, Disogi, can you read this one? Mohammed Disogi, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Could you read this one?
Air pressure also changes with temperature. When the temperature is high, the air heats up, expands, and rises. The area at which the heating takes place will have a low pressure. Look at figure 6.19 and you will see that uh, when the area marked the region B is heated up, the area rises, causing an area of low pressure. A fall in air pressure is a sign of rain and wind. The lower the pressure, the worse the weather will be.
Okay, that's good, Mohammad Isogi. So, Mohammad Isogi, read the paragraph very confidently. That's good. And uh, air pressure changes with the temperature. Yes, the wind is basically depending on the temperature. For example, if that wind is in the sun, then it will not be the cool one. And if that wind is in the snowfall, then it will be very much cooled. Why? Because of the temperature. So when the temperature is high, the air also heats up and rises. The area at which the heating takes place will have low pressure. So the area at which the heating takes place will have low pressure. So when there is a high temperature, the air heats up. If you see the figure 5.6.19, what does figure 6.19 is telling us? If you see this picture, the first particle, when the ground gets heated because of the sun, the air above it gets heated and rises. An area of low pressure develops as air rises. As we see this thing, the air, as we see this thing here, Muhammad Disogi read that when the temperature is high, the place will have a low pressure. In the same way, an area of low pressure develops as air rises. What happens? As the warm air rises, it cools. At the height when it reaches, it becomes cooled down. The cooled air then sinks as it is dense. Now the condensation process is started. Condensation process is started. For example, the warm was where the warm air is going upward, and when it is going upward it become cool down, and when it is cooled down then it become dense. The condensation starts. An area of high pressure develop as the cooled air sinks. When the cooled air sinks in, then the area of high pressure is there. The differences in pressure between region A and region B cause the cool air to rush in as a wind. Why that area is cooled down? Because we know the cold air has heavier than the warm air. So cold air is heavier than the warm air. So cool this region is become cooled down, region A, and region B is a hotter one. Differences in pressure between region A and B cause the cool air to rush in as a wind. Wind moves from an area of high pressure to the area of low pressure. So the area of high pressure is there. Where is the cooled wind? And this cooled wind is moving towards the high pressure area. As we know, the cold air take place of the warm air. Warm air is lighter. So we put the AC. Why the AC put it cool down the room? Because when the AC is working, so they will put up the warm air upside when the AC starts cooling. So they put the cool air, and the cold air is heavier than the warm air. So the warmness of the room will be gone because the AC. So in this way the AC works. In this way the AC also works, and they will put the cold air in the warm place. So region A is the cold one. Which one is the region A? This one. It's a cold one, and the region B is the hotter one. And remember, in the hotter region we have low pressure, and in the cold region we have a high pressure of air. So low air pressure at hot region and high air pressure at cold weather or the cold region. Now, if you see in this, when the temperature is low, okay, we discussed already this paragraph. Okay, let me see. When the temperature is low, air cools, contracts, and sinks. The result in high pressure at a region A, increase in air pressure is a sign of weather. So, figure 6.20 shows an aneroid barometer used to measure air pressure. Barometer normally used to measure the air pressure. Aneroid is a specific term they are using, but the word barometer is a general term. Whenever someone is using a barometer, the barometer is used to measure the air pressure. It is used to measure the air pressure. We see in the air pressure, what we see in that paragraph, air is continuous, moving upside and downside with the force. The force of air is called the air pressure, and pressure are different according to the temperature. One more thing, In the hot regions, air pressure is low. In the cold region, air pressure is more. But air pressure, high air pressure will move towards the low air pressure area. So that's why the weather of that area is continuously changing. Did you guys understand this point? Did you guys understand that point?
No,
Which one?
Yes.
Which one? Which point you didn't understand?
I didn't understand region region A and ground and region B.
Okay, what did you not understand? I explained the whole thing. What is your question? Okay, see, there is a question. For example, if you have to ask that what is air pressure, I will give you the answer. For example, if we cover the complete page and at the end, if someone is saying, I didn't understand this thing, this whole page, so we will going to explain that whole page again. So always focus on the question so that I will explain. Okay, let me explain you this picture again, no issue. So we were discussing about the region A and the region B. The picture starts from the region B. The region B is the area which is hot, and when there is a hot region, then the heat is there, the warm air rises up, the warm air rises up, and when the warm air goes upside, it will become cool down, and when the warm air cool down, it become the dense, means it become heavy. The process of condensation is there. But an area of high pressure develops a cooled air sinks, sinks. They will they will sinks the cold air pressure, the area which is already cooled, where there is no temperature or a less temperature. So at that time, there is a rain, there is a snow, there is all the cold wind in that region A. In this way, the region A has a more air pressure. Why? Because the wind which is coming up, because they are sinking, they are getting the air from that dense air. The area, the region A is getting the air, so the power of that area is much, the air pressure is much. That's why they are taking, as I told you, air pressure has a power to move the car, to move the paper, to move the things. But they will move the car when they have a air pressure more than the weight of car. In the same way, the region A can get the wind, the cold wind. Why? Because the air pressure in the cold areas is much and the air pressure is less in the hot areas. Okay, that's why the areas are getting this cold air towards this area. They are getting it, they are taking it because of the air pressure. The air pressure is taking it from the cold air. Abdullah Khalaf, do you understand this point now?
Understand? It
Okay,
said
that's good.
it would
That's
be
so nice of
if
you.
the warm air it goes sail up and it will be cloud. It condenses and be
Yes,
cloud.
yes, you are right. You are right. Exactly. It will
And
become cloud,
what
and cloud will.
happens? What happens with the cold air when it come down? There will be snow.
There will be snow and there will be temperature. It depends on the temperature. If the temperature, okay, right now the time of the period is finished. I will tell you this sentence because I already tell this thing that how the rain will done or how the snow will be formed. It all depends on the temperature. So I will tell you this question in the next class also. You can put that question in the discussion room also. I will give the answer there and also give the answer in the chat. Okay, so nice to
Okay,
meet all of
sir.
you. So now the time of
Can
the
we
period
leave?
is finished. We will meet in the next class, inshallah. There is an assignment in the class light. It's available there. Everybody open that assignment.